Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you. It's May the 13th. It's been about a week and a half since we've done one of the briefings. So there's been several things that have changed over these last couple of weeks. I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy. I want to update you where we are in Murfreesboro. I'll give you some state information, and then I have Nate Williams, who's here with me. So Nate is our Director of Parks and Recreation. We've had a lot of questions about ball leagues and different things that are open and closed throughout the city, so I thought it'd be good for you to hear from Nate. And then, as always, we'll take some questions and I'll answer those as best as I can. Rutherford County, today, the information that was released, we have 780 positive tests in Rutherford County. That's up 16 from yesterday, so roughly 2%. We have 7,911 negative tests. That is still trending at about the 9% range. I think it is important to have out there that the 780 total positive tests that we have, that's still roughly around 0.02% of the total population of Rutherford County. We have 316 recovered. We've had 20 deaths in Rutherford County. That's increased by 2 since yesterday. So I want to first and foremost say that our thoughts and our prayers are with those people who have lost their lives, with their families. So I want to make sure and let people know that. From where we're moving, it looks like from our data and the things that we're seeing, so we'll move to our chart showing number of tests and number of cases in Rutherford County. And real quickly, let me get up on our briefing. Is not coming up on Facebook that I can look at this. So let me look at this get this up and running real quick. Let's catch up here. Here we go. Now we have it. Let me. Oh, hold on. Turn the volume down. Sorry about that. I should have checked that before. Okay, sorry about that. I want to make sure and be able to see your questions. Okay, let's move to our testing. If you look at this graph, and I think this is extremely important, you'll see since April 1st the level of testing that's been done in Rutherford County as opposed to the number of cases in Rutherford County. The chart that you see that is rapidly increasing is the number of testing, and then you'll also see in red the number of people that have tested positive that's in that chart. So you can clearly see the delta between the green and the red is the increase in testing. And then you'll look, this next graph, the percent change in cases versus tests. And this number is, this graph that you follow from April the 1st, you'll see it's extremely jagged, but you'll see as starting in May 1st, the trend, really May 3rd continues to move downward on the number of people that have tested positive in relation to cases. It's extremely important when we talk about those numbers that it's just not the number of people that have tested positive. It's putting that in relation into how many people have been tested. To give you some context, Saturday before last, the county had set up in conjunction with Murfreesboro Police Department, Murfreesboro Fire Department, and kudos to our fire department. Our command center was out there at McKnight Park. Chief Folks had helped with Dana Garrett with the health department to come up with a plan to move it from downtown to move, where people came in off of DeJarnette, exited off of Airport Drive, and our semi-truck and command center were there. So they tested over 600 people in a 3-hour period, and that's just in one day. So you can see the number of tests that are coming up. In Tennessee, if you look at over a 12-day period, or 13-day period really, you're looking at the total positive number goes from 6% down to 5.67% right now. And there's been 283,000 total tests in Tennessee, with the percent negative has been 94.3%. So that gives you some context. Now, I know most people who are watching this are really wanting to know about Rutherford County. And in Rutherford County, since April the 29th, we had tested 4,684 people. And now through the 12th, so this data is a little bit old, so it's 1 day old, but we had tested 8,509 people with a percent positive rate going from 9.56% down to 8.98%. And the daily positive tests continue to jump around, but a lot of that has to do with the testing, and a lot of that has to do with the call from the state to test all the nursing homes and all the prisons. So I think that is important. I want to move to some state numbers that we have, and publicly say thank you to Brian Terry. Brian has been great on making sure that he keeps us updated with information that has come across. And as we look at these numbers, I think it's important to look at the amount of people that have tested positive, but it's also important to look at where our hospital capacity is, and that's the number that we need to look at. I know Brian has been preaching that one of the things that it's fine to say this is how many people we've tested, but where are our hospitals? And statewide right now, there's 28% available floor beds. There's 26% available ICU beds. There's 51% available airborne infection isolation rooms. Here's an important number. There are 77% available ventilators, 70% for multiple use. There's 91% alternative ventilators, and 83% of the transport portables that are available. When you look at the PPE, and the county, Chris Clark has done a good job with this. Our N95 masks, and this is statewide, you'll look at the graphs and see the increase in gowns and masks and face shields have all increased over this period. And then if you look at the current hospitalization rate, and this number, the May 13th numbers have not come out yet, so these are still May 12th numbers, but you'll look at in the bottom number, you'll see the graph that shows 277 inpatient totals, 140 ICU patients, and 53 ventilated, but you'll see that number has stayed pretty flat and even declined on the hospitals. I want to give thanks to Gordon Ferguson, want to give thanks to Luke Caputo at Stonecrest. They have really done well, and overall our healthcare facility in Rutherford County has done really well. Moving to the next point, I think it's good to keep you updated with what the state has done and also our Safer at Home. And what we try to do is the state has pushed new guidance out to us. We've updated our Safer at Home to be in conjunction with what the state has pushed out. I continue to preach this because, I get emails just about every night saying, why can't you do what Nashville's doing? There are 6 metro health departments, and to put it simple, the 6 metro health departments can pretty much do whatever they want to. That's why you're seeing plans in Metro Nashville that are different than what the state is issuing. Metro Nashville, I believe they're opening their restaurants on Monday, where our restaurants have been open almost for a week and a half now, since April 27th. I think was the date that they've been open, 2 weeks. So we're one of 89 counties that we're in the county health department structure, and so that means that all of the guidance for those 89 counties come from the state, and we follow the directions that we get from the state. As a matter of fact, the governor's executive order in Executive 30, there's a caveat at the bottom that said that no municipality, in layman's terms, could make anything more restrictive or less restrictive. So when people will say, "Hey, can you implement this? Can you implement that?" The short answer is no, we can't. We're following the state guidelines, and we're doing that to the best of our ability. And the communication that we've had over the last several weeks with the state has been really good. So I want to update you on the Safer at Home and things that have changed since our last briefing. Close contact services such as nail and hair salons, tattoo parlors, massage therapy clinics, reopening information has been updated in hours as of the reopening that they had on May the 6th. We've updated Parks and Recreation phase reopening plan, phase 1. That was on May the 4th. On May 4th, we got guidance from the state, from the governor, on faith-based and community initiatives, i.e. churches and places of worship. So that's been updated. May 8th, we have small group and non-contact entertainment and recreational venue guidelines. So those are bowling alleys, climbing facilities, dance facilities. Those things have been updated. Lodging, and I can answer questions on those if you have questions, but lodging and accommodation, manufacturing, construction, worksite, and office building guidelines were added on May the 13th, and this is the latest latest executive order that we got from the governor. In a little more detail, churches, religious services, rites or gathering, weddings, funerals are not considered social gatherings, and nothing mandates closure of a place of worship or prohibits weddings or funerals as a matter of law. Close contact businesses, hair and nail salons, tattoo parlors, and massage therapies were reopened on May 6th with guidance, and that's in our guidance about wearing masks, certain PPE equipment. And I did a Facebook Live on finally I got to go get my hair cut, so it was nice to go through the protocol and what they're going through. Dental offices reopened on May the 6th. Small group non-contact recreation businesses, so bowling alleys, arcades, climbing gyms, water sports, dance classes, and mini golf reopened on May the 8th with strict guidelines. Lodging, accommodations, manufacturing, work site. So all this is on our City of Murfreesboro, murfreesborotn.gov, on our Safer at Home. There's some really good information on there about what restaurants, retail and commercial, exercise gyms and fitness centers, close contact services, small group, lodging and accommodations, manufacturing, construction, worksite, and office buildings. So all of that has been updated. It's really easy to look at. I don't have the time to go over each individual one of those, but it's all in a really easy graph that you can look at. It's 3 pages that you can just go through each individual item, and you can go through to see those. I wanted to bring Nate on. And Nate, I've just got to see Nate just about every day, and Nate's done a really good job on leading our Parks and Recreation team, which, a lot of people in the city, I would say that they really deal with 2 departments. They deal with our solid waste department and our people who come and pick up your waste every day, and then they deal with Parks and Recreation. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about Parks and Recreation, and wanted Nate just to update us on where we are and what you're seeing, Nate.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, Mayor. I can't say enough about our team in this process. From the very beginning of starting to shut down these facilities, our staff have just done a tremendous job, and now we're in the process of reopening. What we've done, like you said, based on state guidelines and state recommendations, is we've developed a 3-phase plan. These derive from state guidelines along with federal guidance as well. So pretty much all of our facilities are somewhat open, or elements are open, except for the St. Clair Senior Center, our sports complexes and our ball fields, playgrounds, pavilions, and then our dog parks right now. So everything else, there's limited access to. A lot of what people have really become accustomed to is using Sports Common Patterson. Those facilities are own, Mayor. We've got our gyms and then our classes that we've reorganized to make sure that we can fit those classes in areas where we can maximize social distancing. So we put those in the gym. There's no open gym for basketball. There's no swimming at all at either one of these facilities. A lot of people have had a lot of questions about what we're doing with people who have had passes. We've extended the passes, and we're dealing with everybody on a case-by-case basis based on what they're looking to do at our facilities. But everybody who's had monthly or yearly passes have been extended 2 months for the month and a half that we were completely closed. So Adams Tennis Complex is open, and all of our other smaller facilities, Bradley Academy Museum, Cannonsburg, the Wilderness Station, are all open. Throughout this process, we've maintained our trail system's been open, our greenway has been open, all of our open spaces have been open, and I can't say enough about the usage has been very appropriate, and hopefully has been kind of a snapshot for what Parks and Recreation has to offer to the residents of Murfreesboro and the visitors of Murfreesboro. I think one of the big things that people want to know is, what does Phase 2 look like, and when do we get there? If I had a nickel for every time somebody asked me when they thought Phase 2 would start, To be completely honest, we don't even have a date circled yet because we're waiting for state guidance on that, and we'll know when we get there, and we'll try to give as much notice as we can. Our staff is prepared to enter phase 2, and that will trigger some other things that people have really become accustomed to doing, like water exercise. The pool becomes open for organized activities at both Sports Com and Patterson, and it also opens up our sports complexes, Siegel Soccer Park, our ball fields at McKnight, and then Barfield as well. And that would allow local leagues to resume playing, but would not allow for outside tournaments. Those would not be allowed until phase 3 of our plan. Playgrounds will open in phase 2 with increased sanitation, along with pavilions. In phase 2, there'd have to be 50 or less in our pavilions, but they will open in phase 2 as well, along with the dog park will open in phase 2.
Nate, what about we've gotten a lot of questions here lately about sports leagues. Tell me about the sports leagues.
Our staff has been in communication. I know I've talked daily with different representatives of our different leagues that participate in Murfreesboro and use our facilities. And I think the simple answer that I try to explain to everybody, through the guidance that we get from the state along with the federal guidance, where we are in phase 1, organized youth activities are not allowed right now. So we have to be in phase 2, and what we're planning for in phase 2 is we'll open it up, and we're going to maximize the time that we have for our local leagues to be able to participate at those facilities to hopefully fit their seasons in. Our staff is working with their representatives to figure out a way that we can socially distance some of the games and maximize and make sure what we're doing is safe. But just the simple answer is those leagues just can't happen. We don't do any of our organized youth activities right now either.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So until we can lift that and get into phase 2, we can't allow for the leagues to happen. But hopefully, I think what you're showing, Mayor, and what we're seeing is that we're trending in the right direction. So I think if everybody can keep doing what they need to do, I think hopefully we'll be there sooner rather than later. And we'll get to that date out as soon as we know something.
And all of our leagues are in a rough spot because they register people. For instance, I know Murfreesboro Baseball Association went ahead and canceled their league, and I know this firsthand because my 7-year-old played last year, and those leagues, they start practicing in February. February and March, you're starting to practice, and the league is over with end of June, before July 4th. And I think it's important that people understand that, these leagues just don't happen in 2 weeks. I mean, so in February or after registration, they immediately start buying uniforms and trophies and all of those things. So I would just tell the residents out there, I know, for us, my young one plays soccer, my older ones play basketball. They haven't been able to do any of that. Bear with these leagues as they're trying to figure out, we want them to be here next year. And, they've outlaid cash, they've outlaid different things that they've had to plan for. And so let's work with those groups. And that was one of the things when I saw that MBA canceled and I was trying to walk backwards through that, I mean, best case scenario, the May would have gotten 2 or 3 weeks worth of leagues in. But it's important to know we're not even released for youth activities yet as far as organized youth activities. And that's something to make sure if you're on a travel ball team or some of those, I know people are practicing, but you need to make sure and socially distance when you're practicing. I want to make sure we've done a good job. I'll read a Vanderbilt article here in a minute, but we still want to make sure and not let our guard down.
I think with our local leagues, we miss them just as much as they miss us. We want to have those activities happening in the parks, and we're trying to work the best we can for what it looks like when we can get into phase 2, and that's why we're intentionally not allowing for any tournaments to hopefully make up for some of the time. But it's hard. It's hard for the leagues when they don't know a date, and we sympathize with that, and we're trying to get them as much information as we can. I know any of the leagues that we've had that have had to cancel, we've waived the player fee completely. We've refunded that. throughout the park system. We've had, of course, we pull in a lot of revenue through rentals and registrations, and we've refunded everything. We kind of waived our refund policy at this point to make sure we can make people whole. But yeah, we're excited. We want to get to phase 2, and I think we can get there sooner rather than later. Mayor, another question that we get quite a bit is about dog parks and about playgrounds. It's nice days typically out right now, and what we did when we started compiling all the information is we said, we've got to kind of categorize some of these elements. So if it's an open space or a trail, you can, by nature, socially distance on those, and it's a safe way to interact with the park system. But what we categorized as some of our pavilions, playgrounds, dog parks, we didn't want to make a destination where people come to gather socially that we didn't have any control over the cleanliness like we do at our facilities on a regular basis every hour, more than that, and then how many people are in there. So that hopefully answers some of the questions that we have about our outdoor destination amenities.
Absolutely. I want to quickly go over a Vanderbilt article that I read or that was sent to me today. Originally, Vanderbilt had projected 2,000 to 5,000 hospitalizations, and that was in early April. And that was revised today down to 250 to 300. It just says a spokesman for the Department of Health said hospitalization estimates were revised on April 24th to a plateau of 250 to 300, although the estimates do not appear to have been made public now. But one of the researchers at Vanderbilt noted distinct spikes of new cases in the past 2 weeks, but these occurred as the state government expanded testing in prisons and nursing homes while it introduced drive-through testing in many counties. And that's one thing as we see that we're going through. I'll get to the questions here in a second. Murfreesboro City Schools, you can go to the Murfreesboro City School website. They're still on their chow feeding schedule. If we need help on that, I've not been told that we need any more help, but if we need to raise some more money for that, we will. And again, to use the analogy that, the red light analogy, we've been shut down and we're now in a yellow. And so with that becomes caution. I went out last night and picked up food for our family, and I never went in. They brought it to our car. So there's things that are still working through that we're all learning, but I think that it's important to make sure and support our local businesses as we go through this. So I'm going to do my best to answer some of these questions. Nate, if I see any for you. Can you explain why the White House Corona Task Force has Rutherford County on a list to be watched because of our high growth of positive tests? I saw that article on NBC that was posted. We've not received that information. I think it was an unpublished report. We've not received any of that. And there was a comment I saw on here that said, where is that? Let's see. Why are we opening this stuff when we are exploding in case numbers? And that's just not accurate to say that we're exploding in case numbers when we had, Michael Ann, if you can go back to the chart that we had that is the graph that shows testing in relation to total positive tests. That one right there. This is the data. We don't have any reason to manipulate this. This is what the data shows over since April 1st. The green is the number of testing, and the red is the number of positive tests that we've had. We've got 780 positive tests in a county of over 300,000 residents, up 16 from yesterday, and that was a 2.1% increase. I understand when you're on social media or if you're on other things. I was saying this on WGNS today, that a lot of the information that comes across is slanted in one way or another. Depends which side you're on, but we're going off of the accurate data that we're getting from the state. I'm not saying that we won't have more people test positive, but the White House report on the unpublished report that we saw, I don't know. We've not been notified in Rutherford County. That could have been when all the nursing homes in Rutherford County were tested. It could have been when we did our article or did our testing on the Saturday when we tested 630 some odd people. So I don't know. I just know the information that we're getting from the state, and that's what we're going off of. We have a question about, according to what I've heard, mayors have authority to issue their own recommendation and not blindly follow what the state of Tennessee guidelines say. For example, maybe you could say that wearing masks in public is recommended and important because people are not really doing that a lot in places of borough. Barbara, again, we're one of 89 counties in the state that is under the county health department, which answers to the state. So we follow state guidances. We don't have the ability to be able to do any more or any less than what the state sends down to us. And that's what we're doing, is working with those officials. Let's see. Cases have doubled in 2 weeks in Rutherford County. That's not what I've seen, but you may have different information than what I'm looking at. But I can say that since April 1st, we had 1,000 tests, and as of May the 13th, we're over almost 9,000 tests. So, again, that graph, Michael, that you've got up, the green is how many people have been tested, and the red is how many people have tested positive. And I think that is a good point, that the information that Dr. Terry is posting is really good information. Other counties are allowing people on ball fields to practice, and tournaments are slated to be held as soon as 2 weeks from now. What is the difference about Rutherford County? Do the mayors not have flexibility in implementing guidance? Trevor, that's a good question. No, we don't have flexibility in implementing guidance. We're going from state guidance on that the state sends us. Again, it's no more, no less. So that's what we're going off of. I can't speak of other counties. If it's Davidson County or if it's Hamilton County or one of the counties that are metro health departments, I don't know about other counties. But all I know is the guidance, Nate, unless I'm missing something, there's been no guidance to allow competitive youth activities to resume now. I don't believe.
No, there's not. There's it's based off of federal guidance along with the state guidance on that as well. So when it comes to, and we put those together to come up with our phasing plan, and that's where we really discern that in phase one, we're not going to allow that right now. I don't think it would be productive for us as we start to open up these facilities.
The difference is that we are one of the deadliest counties in the state. That's just not true. Again, we've had 20 deaths, and that's 20 more than what any of us wanted. But over sensationalizing the data is just not good for anyone. But that's just not true. Rutherford County has done really well so far, and again, we're not over. In phase two, Barbara, we don't know when phase two is coming, but that's something that we'll continue to look at. I can't speak to specifics on Murfreesboro Baseball Association. I do know that no one wanted to cancel those leagues. I can't speak to how sponsorships go. I know I paid a sponsorship, and I'll give you my opinion. Everyone's been hurt throughout this crisis. Our leagues that we have that manage these leagues, they're not in this to make a profit. They provide a service to the residents of Murfreesboro that honestly we would have a tough time providing those services, because they're mainly volunteers. The coaches are volunteers, and no one wanted to be able to have those canceled.
I agree, Mayor. I think for what we looked at with these leagues, anyone that's decided to cancel that we partner with, any of our partner leagues that cancel, we've decided to just give them 100% the player fee. So that's just $10 per player per league, season that the city takes in. There's no other field rental fees or anything like that associated with our partner leagues. So we went ahead and, like you said earlier on, try to make it easier for them in the process and refunded that money.
Let's see. I'm going through. Brad, I don't know about the leagues being given 100% of their feedback. That's every individual league. So that's something you need to talk with each individual league. Would you dine at a restaurant with your family currently, Mayor McFarland? Yes, and I have. Yes. As a matter of fact, last Thursday night, I ate with my wife at the Alley. Not trying to give Sean Hackettson a plug, but it was completely safe and it was cleanly. So, yes. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything because I know that we want to make sure. Let's see. Brad, I don't know, I can't say specifically on MBA issuing a refund, but I mean, I do know many of those leagues like MBA and also and the Optimist, they buy all their uniforms, they buy all those on the front end, so they have to pay for those. So I don't know what the total amount is. I would guarantee it's substantial. NBA says their fees are for using the fields. No, it's a little different because we have a player fee that we put, I think is it $9?
It's $10 per player.
So the city charges NBA $10 for field maintenance. We maintain all the fields, we mow all the fields, we line all the fields. I mean, we do all of that. So we charge $10 a player that's in your registration fee that they pay to us.
And there's no field rental fees with that.
Yeah, and so there's no field rental fees with that. They just, pay that. Let's see. And I think it's a good point. I want to say this, and I do not mean this to be flippant or we all have to make different choices. There's levels of personal responsibility that we have to make throughout this situation. My hands are literally crackled for as much hand sanitizer as I'm using. And when everyone was having to stay at home, I mean, I didn't get the option to not stay home. I mean, we were working as a city on this to make sure that we did everything we could to protect people. So, there's many of us that didn't get an option to stay at home. So, I mean, why I'm saying that is, many people are commenting on here about restaurants, and if I go to restaurants, and I mean, I had a guy that called me a while back wanting to document when I go to the gym or what restaurant I go to, and at that point I probably was more salty than what I should, and I just said, hey, all due respect to you, sir, it's none of your business when I go eat with my family. But I'm telling you, I'm going out. I got food from Delmonico's today, and everyone's practicing their social guidelines on there, or social distancing. So look, if you don't want to go to these restaurants, if you don't want to go shop or what, don't get out. You don't have to. I mean, no one's forcing you to do that. I choose to follow guidelines that are put in place, and I think that's what city employees are doing. That's what we're doing. That's what people that I see. If there's a business that's not following those guidelines, then don't go back to that business or don't frequent that business. Let us know if there's issues. We'll happily call those businesses to let them know. But that's really what we're trying to do. When do you think concerts will begin in Murfreesboro? Musicians are out of work. I understand, Gary. We're still waiting for guidance from the state on that. I appreciate what all of our musicians do. Nate, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, Mayor, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. We're glad to see our facilities being used again. It's great to see some of those smiling faces come back into Sportscom and Patterson and McFadden. The only thing I'd like to add is St. Clair is a very popular venue of ours. What we've decided is we won't open St. Clair Senior Center until Phase 3 of our opening plan, just because of the at-risk population that goes to that facility. But everything else I think we've touched on. But we're looking forward to getting to where we can enjoy the parks like we have done in the past. And I encourage people, like I do every chance I get, it's a great time of year just to get out and get on the trail system. Go on the Greenway, go hike some trails at Barfield, or just get out in some of our green spaces. There's a lot you can find out that you can really enjoy with your family, especially.
Hey, and last thing I want to say, no one wanted us to be here. I mean, this was not something that we all expected. I went back and looked at information that we were getting in January and February. And so when we talk about these ball leagues and we talk about, I've got friends who are in the restaurant business, and I think the biggest thing that I could say to all of our residents right now, we are all going to have to give some mercy and grace. When you go out to a restaurant right now, they're trying to get back in the swing of things just like a lot of our other places are. The ball leagues that are in town, I guarantee you they didn't want to cancel these leagues. So is it going to cost some of us some money and sponsorships and those things? Yes. But, we want these leagues and we want these restaurants and we want our small businesses to come back stronger than they were before this thing happened. So does that mean that some of us are going to have to end up making sacrifices, or does it mean that when we go get food that our order may not always be right? Yes. So you have a choice to be able to continue to frequent those businesses, or you can post on social media and slam the small business about they messed your order up. But before you do that, let's give some mercy and grace and think about what everyone is trying to do to get back into the swing of things. That's the way I'm going to try to look at it. That's the way I'm encouraging everyone to look at it. And I know I've gotten a lot of emails about, MBA or Optimist or, Murfreesboro Soccer or a lot of these leagues. But, folks, their mission is to be able to get kids on the fields. They didn't want to cancel. And, none of those leagues are sitting on a pile of cash that they can afford to do that. So let's keep that in mind, and let's make sure that over these next weeks that we show people what Murfreesboro is about. We show people what Rutherford County is about. And I know you can't give them a hug, but if you see an emergency service provider, if you see a firefighter, if you see a police officer, if you see an ambulance driver, a healthcare worker, tell them thank you. So I know I want to say thank you for what you're doing in our community and what you'll continue to do in our community. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate what you're doing. We'll hopefully see you in another week. Thank you. Be blessed.